Happy Friday, everybody. We made it all the way through the whole week. It's amazing. And this is your drive home for your Friday. Looking forward to a weekend. It's Iditarod weekend, 5 minutes after the hour. Here on the Glen Biegel Show, Bonnie Cameron is on the other side of the glass, waiting to take your phone call, 569-1080, and also at 357-5868. Happens to be a lot of people's favorite day of the week because it's Free Flower Friday. It's also Fair Game Friday. Anything on your mind is fair game. So give us a call. The news is going crazy. You know, I like PETA just as much as the next God-fearing, fun-loving, freedom-loving American. Mm-hmm.
You mean people for the eating of tasty animals?
Yeah.
Because that's my PETA.
Mm-hmm. That's our PETA. Well, so in other words, I despise PETA just as much as the next God-fearing, freedom-loving. So this is the deal that these dogs are being abused.
Yeah, same old story every year.
Well, you know, it is fascinating because I guess these guys are dog whisperers, and they don't. I'll just let it be known. I was a swimmer and I was tortured. They tortured me, made me swim 3.5 hours a day. Of course, I was in great shape. My mind was perfectly clear. There was nothing that I couldn't do. One day, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to run down to a friend's house. Friend's house happened to be 10 miles away. Off I ran. Not a big deal. I just decided I was going to do it. That's the way it was. You know, for PETA to put themselves in the place as dog whisperers for all the rest of us, you know, there's no limit to what they can and can't say. Your gerbil runs how often? Your gerbil is on that wheel, what, 2-3 hours a day? Do you know how long that would be if you had to run 2 or 3 hours a day, but my gerbil likes the wheel? I don't care. Get your gerbil off the wheel, and if you don't, I'm going to send somebody in there to rescue your gerbil from you.
Gerbil abuse.
Gerbil abuse. Well, there actually is a lot of gerbil abuse out there, but that has to do with something else entirely. We're going to have a discussion today with a couple of legislators about the pipeline deal. And I'm trying to get to the bottom of something that I believe, that I fear, that I think is true, and I would like to get a broad range of people to speak on it. And I'm trying to get both sides. So we're going to have Senator Anna McKinnon and Senator Kathy Giesel on to talk about what I think most people would say is a difficulty for the state of Alaska putting its entire savings account and maybe in the future the state of Alaska on the line to build a pipeline that may never make money. So that's a big question. And they don't particularly like that kind of risk. Maybe it's a good risk, though. But what I don't like about it so far is I don't think that the governor is telling us this puts the entire permanent fund at risk. Or, alternatively, it could be three things. This pipeline's a no-brainer. They're going to give us money. They're not going to charge us a lot for it. For sure, it's going to save us. There are absolutely no possibilities that we're going to lose money on this pipeline deal. We know what the energy market's going to look like 15, 20 years down the line. Maybe that's the case. You know, maybe all those things are true. And so this pipeline's a no-brainer. And yeah, we put $52 billion in the permanent fund. And because where else are we going to get money? All the rest of the money is going to be gone here in a couple of years. So that's what I want on the table. I want all of the cards on the table. Because I could understand, yeah, we're going to partner up. We're going to buy 25% of the processing facility, the pipeline, the liquefaction plant, and the ships or whatever. And then we're going to get 25% of the benefit. And so we're carrying 25% of the risk. We're carrying 25% of the cost. We're going to get 25% of the benefit. Not the ongoing cost. We actually would carry 0% of the ongoing costs, which is nice. That's a very nice benefit. I understood that. Us taking on the entirety of the risk, that's a little odd. You know, that's something that I want to plumb the depths of. Not that I think it's necessarily a bad thing. Look, there was Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Have you seen that movie? It was a Clooney movie.
Yeah, I saw it. It was good.
I liked it too.
I love the songs.
Oh man, all the songs in it are fantastic. If you haven't seen it, you're missing a lot. And they met this black guitar player that they hooked up with, and he made a deal with the devil and sold his soul to the devil. And they said, well, why would you do that? Because two of them had just been saved. They got in the river and they got submerged in the water, and so they got saved. These are criminals, and they met this guitar player on the road, some crossroads, and he said, well, I wasn't using it. Okay, look, I don't know if we're making a deal with the devil here. We're not, but we're not using the permanent fund. Yeah, I guess it grows every year, but frankly, I think the public sector unions are going to take it away anyway. So I don't think, unless they're going to split it down the middle and then give it out to the people of the state, I don't think we're going to get anything out of it anyway. Maybe we could get a pipeline out of it, and maybe that would make money, and maybe there's not as much risk as a lot of people think there might be. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure all that stuff out, but I will be trying to. I did a rod weekend. It's Friday. It's fair game and Free Flower Friday. Free Flower Friday, by the way, brought to you by our good friends over at My Lord's Floral, 522-2535, corner of 76th in the Old Seward Highway, and a beautiful place. If you have not gone in there, it's like entering Shangri-La. Wait, you don't like Shangri-La?
I actually don't know what that is.
It's a land flowing with milk and honey.
Oh.
It was ruled by Kublai Khan. And Rush, one of my favorite, you should actually play Shangri-La from Rush when we come back. But one of my favorite bands, they wrote a song about it. It was some guy was tripping out on, I don't know, heroin or some weird thing, opium. He was tripping out on opium, and he wrote this poem. He had this huge vision, so he wrote like the first 5 stanzas of the poem. And I don't know whether he died or something bad happened. I think he just forgot. He forgot what he was writing because he was so high on opium that he couldn't actually remember it. They thought it might be the greatest poem ever written, and it called Shangri-La. A whole bunch of people written songs about it. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show. It's Friday. It's random day, and I'd love to hear from you. 569-1080, 12 minutes after the hour. 15 minutes after the hour. The Glen Biegel Show continues here on KOAN and KVNT. The World Ice Art Championships going on in Fairbanks. I cannot imagine how they do this. I really would like to watch it. It would be something. So how about this? A pistol fires during a Shugnak children's unsupervised play, killing a 7-year-old. They thought it was a toy gun. How does a gun get out of the protective area of an adult? You do get a sense that out in the far reaches of Alaska, there's not a lot of parental supervision going on. And I guess in the past, we didn't need a lot of parental supervision because you knew that if it was a gun, you didn't play with it, right? That was kind of the way. If it was heavy like a gun and looked like a gun and was made of metal, then you just didn't mess with it. It just wasn't something that you did. Oh, my gosh. PETA's after our Iditarod. And I'm after PETA, the people for the ethical treatment of animals. And, you know, when you look at it from their point of view, where, well, gee, here are human beings who are just the same as dogs, right? They're no better, they're no worse, just the same as a cockroach, just the same as a bird, just the same as a dolphin, just the same as a human. And here you have these humans acting like they own dogs and they're training them and they don't own them and they shouldn't be allowed to train them and they shouldn't be allowed to make them run long distances. Well, this is what they're bred for. They actually wouldn't exist at all if we didn't run them around on long-distance trails. You know, the dogs would cease to exist because there would be no purpose in having them or feeding them. So I don't know that they've gotten... Bonnie, do you think that they've actually gotten to that, the actual end of the argument, where if we don't have this opportunity for these dogs, then there are no dogs. The dogs cease to exist. Have they gotten there yet, or do they care?
I think they care about fundraising. And I think it's just another way for them to get some funds pouring in, get some attention going. People say, oh, yeah, because they might have bleeding paws, or, you know, one or two of the dogs might pass during the race. And, you know, it makes people's emotions all stirred up. And we are a nation of emotion. So
fundraising, I have no doubt.
I mean, they don't do it throughout the year. They don't talk about it throughout the year. It's only when it's going on.
PETA claims the dogs are forced to run an average of more than 100 miles per day in the race and notes that at least 23 dogs using the Iditarod have died since just 2004. The PETA press release does not mention that 22 of those deaths came prior to the year 2010, or that the only dog that has died since then perished in a freak accident at a checkpoint after the animal was dropped by a musher and left with volunteers who were supposed to care for it. Oh, whoops. Well, look, you can't expect that the fundraising campaign is going to be covering with any kind of accuracy. These dogs, they're bred so much better than they used to be, and they're cared for. I mean, these owners, they know that the Iditarod is on a chopping block. You don't think they could shut down the Iditarod with the boycott of the state of Alaska, or they boycotted Pebble Mines gold, for gosh sakes. Here it was going to employ 3,000 people in Western Alaska, one of the poorest areas in the entire country. People, they have nothing out there. They have absolutely nothing. And you had a whole bunch of places that just said, we don't want your gold from Pebble Mine, even though it would have been the greatest thing for them. You don't think that Alaska and the Iditarod is on the chopping block. These guys are, the sad thing is that these left-wing fanatics, what we used to think of as, ha, 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 oh, they're so cute. I wish I could just pinch their little cheek. They don't matter. It doesn't matter. You don't think Obama matters? What's the difference between Obama and these fools? I don't think there's much difference. I think that Obama is what looks to be in the Menendez situation after his enemies. And I've seen him do it many times. I wouldn't be surprised. Would not surprise me. Love to hear from you on this. 569-1080, 357-5868. Well, we have done something here in the state of Alaska that I would say is pretty rare. we have, and it's not good for us either, but it's still pretty rare. We have beaten Uber. Did we want to beat Uber? I never thought, I don't think we did. We were not intending to beat Uber. But
we want them to come back.
Well, I'm guessing they're done. So this is the situation. Ride-sharing service Uber announced Friday morning it has suspended its Anchorage operations. So we were in the technological advancement, with the rest of the country, and we've been dropped back into the Stone Age. So welcome.
Do you think that's because it's not cost effective for them because we don't have the population?
No.
To justify their legal fees, maybe?
We are not subject to the pressures that other places are. We don't unelect people who get into the assembly. We have a fairly conservative city, but we've got a far left crazy assembly. And frankly, the special interests up here in Alaska are way more powerful in my mind than they are just about anywhere else other than a place like Chicago or Detroit, where they can literally run the city into the ground and nobody blinks an eye. Oh, okay. Well, our city's completely out of money and we can't provide water for people. Oh, the UN's going to give us water now. Oh, that sounds completely reasonable. No, I think special interests in Alaska and in Anchorage in particular are just much stronger than they are other places. I think Uber would have been a great addition to us up here. I don't know. I did have some qualms about it. I did have some difficulty with the recent permit buyers. So they buy a permit for a taxi, and I realize what I'm about to say sounds completely insane. A permit for a taxi in Alaska is sold at like $140,000. Can you imagine that? $140,000 for a permit to do just about anything. It sounds like a liquor license. I mean, those are like $250,000 or $300,000. Can you serve alcohol in a cab? That might be. Maybe that's why they keep getting this. Is a huge party. You just drive it around the city and a huge party going on. You drop some people off. You pick some more people up. You put your left foot in. You put your left foot out. It's it's a great thing. Ride-sharing service Uber announced Friday morning it has suspended its Anchorage operations. The suspension will begin noon Friday, March 6th. The move comes after months of behind-the-scenes negotiations with the municipality of Anchorage, and after they failed to produce an agreement that would have allowed Uber drivers to take paying fares. So far, what they've been doing, by the way, they've been doing it all free. Anchorage Uber drivers have been giving only free rides after a Superior Court judge ruled on October 13th that if they accepted payment, it would be a violation of city taxi ordinance. Can you feel the power of the special interests?
That's what I'm saying. They don't want to spend the legal money, the legal fees and all that because it's not worth it. Our population
can't afford to keep doing it free. What they've done in other places is they just said, we're coming to your city. They extended their ride sharing service to that city, and unless a judge stopped them, then they provided the service. That's option A. Option B, a judge stops them, then they provide free service, which is what they did. And the only place in the world, though, that has not been able to, quote, come to an agreement with technological advancement is Anchorage. Because, in my mind, look, special interest rule here. I'm used to it. I'm over it. It's okay. And it's never my special interest. Am I whining? It's Friday. We can whine a little.
It's time to whine.
We can whine and dine.
We need to whine and get the message out there.
The message of whiners. Unfortunately, although we have tried for months to work with the city of Anchorage to craft an inclusive agreement that paves a path forward for ride-sharing services in Anchorage, the city has dragged its feet and failed to provide a clear end date for negotiations. Bryce Bennett, Uber's Anchorage operations manager, wrote in a blog post Friday, because of the city's inaction, we are forced to make the difficult decision to pause operations in Anchorage at this time. Can we modernize? Is it possible for the city of Anchorage to actually get its act together? 25 minutes after the hour, it's Friday. It's Fair Game Friday. Anything on your mind is fair game. 569-1080. And also out in the valley. If you've reached that far to your destination, 357-5868. When is it too early to release a child sex predator? Well, I'm going to give you what my, at least something that falls nations that I would think of. So Jamie Cordell sexually abused his daughter. Do you think that it might have only happened once? I'm guessing not. Maybe 10 times? Probably not. Maybe 100 times, maybe 1,000 times. Look, folks, this person's not going to get well. So Jamie Cordell, 43, was sentenced to 29 years in prison. Now, as many grandchildren know, when granddad has a problem, grandchildren are still in danger. I kind of think that Jamie Cordell ought to be facing, 2,900 years on the other side of a prison cell. That's just my thought. Sentence handed down nearly a year after Cordell's trial, 29 years. He's 43. What does that mean? He'll get out at 72, probably a lot earlier with good time. Unfortunately for the rest of us, he's still going to be dangerous at that point. Love to hear from you. It is the Glen Biegel Show. Happy Friday, everybody. We made it. We made it all the way. 13 questions or so from Hillary still coming up. What do you think about Alaska's rating? You'd be surprised. The rest of us are thinking, gosh, the world seems like it's coming to an end. Ratings agencies may not see it that way. I'll tell you that story as well. And can we privatize parts of our city utilities? Oh, Tom McGrath would love that. I think he'd jump for joy if we could get 27 minutes after the hour. Fair Game Friday, Free Flower Friday. And that's going to happen. When are we going to do that? Should we do that in the 4 o'clock hour today? I think so, too. I think at 4:45, we are going to give away a $50 bouquet from My Lord's Floral over at mylordsfloral.com. 522-2535. That is her number. She was heavily pursued, by the way. I don't think she realized what fame and fortune her voice would inspire. And it was pretty funny to listen to her stories about it. Anyway, over at mylordsfloral.com. Yeah, she's waiting for your call. Give her a call, 522-2535, $50 bouquet. We're going to give that away at the 45 and the 5 o'clock hour. We're going to have a discussion on the pipeline plans for Alaska. Stay tuned, folks. It's the Glen Biegel Show. 27 minutes before the hour, it is Fair Game Friday. Anything on your mind is fair game. It doesn't happen every day. Most every day, well, it's still fair game. But we don't call it Fair Game Thursday because that doesn't make any sense. Or Fair Game Tuesday or anything else. Give us a call, 569-1080. I heard Amy Demboski said that she was not going to vote for the school bonds.
She was the only one.
Excuse me, the school building bonds.
That are desperately needed.
Desperately needed. Well, when you got a monopoly and you can go out to the taxpayer and ask for a whole bunch more cash, a lot of people aren't that careful with their money, so maybe they don't care.
Well, and when I saw it on Facebook, it was interesting because the person who put it out had said it as if it was a bad thing.
Sure.
She was the only one who opposed this. And the thing is that it won't raise property taxes because they're going to be retiring debt. And
so we would get to keep money.
Yes. So one of the commenters brilliantly said, okay, so if they're retiring debt and she wouldn't support this new school bond, then our property taxes would decrease, correct? And all those comments got deleted.
You know what they should have said? They should have said, so we could keep more of our money.
Right. It only matters when it's their money they're spending.
Right.
But when it's other people's money, it doesn't matter.
And only people in government would come up with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, it's not going to, you're going to feel the same amount of pain. Oh, I realize that you don't have any more money and that this is really hard for you. And the $5,000 or $6,000 that the city takes from you is in excess of what you can afford. But you won't feel any more pain. So we're not going to talk about the less pain that you'd feel. I love the left. They're a lot of fun. Hey, I came up with a great business idea. Just fantastic. And somebody has got to implement this. I don't know. I don't even know whether it's possible. But I highly recommend this. I'm going to get your phone calls. 569-1080. Who's that, by the way? All right, let me go to the phone call first because, and I might spring my idea on David Boyle. David.
No, don't spring it on me. It's not spring yet.
It isn't? Well, you're right. It's because it's got to be the 21st of March before it's spring.
And we spring forward tomorrow night.
I know. Oh, my gosh. I had to write, I don't know if you know this, but I'm in technology. So I write scripts to tell computers what to do. And I wrote a script to tell like 10 different computers what to do at 3:02 a.m.
You don't have that already built in?
No, most things can handle the time change. There's one process on one group of systems that I manage that can't. And so I have to deal with that individually.
Oh, that's terrible.
Oh, yeah. But I was very proud of myself. For somebody who is a system administrator like me, a computer is like a really smart dog that you can tell to do anything you want. Most dogs are going to be stupid. They're going to look at you. That's your computer before you train it. So you give it a script, and now you've trained your dog, and it's exciting.
Is your computer housebroke?
It isn't. I have to send it out regularly to be fixed.
Oh, no.
So Amy Demboski said she's not going to vote for the school bonds. I think the earth probably blew up and time came to a stop.
Yeah, anytime you hear the other candidates running, whether it's for the mayor or whether it's for the school board, all they're doing is they're just pandering to the unions, the construction industry, the architects and design. It's a big cartel.
In other words, they're being smart because those are the people who run our elections. Those are the people who give money. Those are the people who show up to vote. Honestly, they pay the way. They make sure that their voices are heard. And here conservatives are like, I don't like these candidates are not perfect. I heard him say something I didn't like 4 years ago. Really? Is that where we are?
Yeah, that's where we're at. And it's really disgusting and discouraging that you're right. They find one little thing about a person that they said a soundbite 4 to 6 years ago and they hammer them for that. But these other folks, they stand up there and they're just wanting to get elected and they'll say anything. Now, Amy running for the mayor, and then there's David Neese and one other lady from Eagle River running for the school board.
What's her name? What's the lady running from Eagle River?
Well, I can't remember her name.
Not Plunkett. No. Plunkett is a teachers union candidate.
It's Elise something. Elise.
It's Elise. Yeah, I can't remember. But anyway, Elise is running from out in Eagle River. Those three individuals, individuals, mind you, said they were not going to vote for the school bonds, and they're spot on there. If people want to raise the tax cap, want to raise their taxes, then vote for the other folks. But I'd vote for David Neese, Amy Demosky, and Elise.
All right. Hey,
but you know what? There's a big crunch coming, as you know. With the state budget. Now this year, the state of Alaska, we have this debt reimbursement program for construction bonds.
Yeah.
This year, they are writing a check to the Anchorage School District for $50 million for debt reimbursement.
Oh, I bet that ain't going to continue.
Scale down at least 10% a year from 70 to 60 to 50. So, Anchorage, you're going to end up paying for all of those bonds in a few years. And that, by the way, it's $85 million principal and interest this year.
David, if this money's not free, I don't want it.
Well, you just want some stimulus money. Yeah.
I like free money. I want free money. Anything from the federal government is free. Anything from the state government is free. Free.
And this argument that the other candidates are using and the gas group. Oh, well, we're paying off $59 million of bonds. Let's just go out and
let's kick it up $59 million more. Here's the thing that people don't realize, David, and this is what we're really arguing about. When it comes from the state and they get rid of municipal revenue sharing and they start decreasing the amount of copay that they're going to give us for these bonds, we are going to have to start making much harder decisions because the downward wage pressures on workers in the state of Alaska is going to come along too, because oil is not worth as much. And that has a huge impact on how much we are paid. You're exactly right. And the other thing is, when we buy more of these darn bonds for stuff that we really don't need downstream, guess what? You're going to take teachers out of the classroom. Yeah. There's the impact on public education. So, but the classrooms will be beautiful. Hey, David, I got a belief. If we did not pass these bonds, do you think that people in their own neighborhoods, this is going to be a shocking question, and it probably will make a lot of union-backed people sick. And unfortunately, that's probably true. But here's my question to you. If there was a leaky roof in a building, do you think the restrictions that only unions can work on this, and they have to be public sector or union worker employees working for the monopoly, do you think people in that neighborhood would get together, get the materials, and fix that building if they were the last line of defense and they were the only ones to do it? Yes, they definitely would, Glenn, if they were allowed by law to do that, and they're prohibited by law today. But the other thing is, how much cheaper do you think it'd be? Let me just, I want to follow this down, because this is the way we used to do things, folks. People don't remember that we actually had a history in this country where public sector unions didn't own education. Now, how much less expensive do you think it would be to replace a roof if we had people in the neighborhood go out, find the cheapest materials that were still good, that were appropriate for the job, and did the work themselves? How much less expensive? Let's say for a $10 million roofing job. It'd probably maybe $2 million just for supplies and materials. I'd be surprised if it wasn't at least 1/10. Right? If it was even $1 million, I'd be shocked at it, because the vast majority of this is waste and labor costs. There's something other stinky going on here, and I mean stinky. Wait, that was me. That wasn't me. Where's my dog? That group called Great Alaska Schools, they're in bed with the school board. Oh, yeah. Now, they're an independent expenditure group as of the middle of September last year, which means they're a PAC. And they were invited by the school board, Tam Auguste-Geisler. She was on the program, with David Neese just the other day. She invited them to the legislative meeting they had with all the legislators. Oh, on the inside. And we provided a free lunch to that group of very rich people. Isn't that great? And they were on the inside. Did you get an invite? No, I actually didn't get an invite, which I'm surprised at, because Tam and I had this very gentle, all right, it was a little bit strained of a conversation. Anyway, hey, David, I appreciate it. Have a great Friday. Thank you. You too. Thanks. 569-1080, 357-5868, Glen Biegel Show. continues, I think this is going to be one of the most and fun times. Not fun in the traditional sense that you got a big smile, in the sense that finally people are going to be having real conversations about, well, what exactly do we want to pay for? Not what do we want government to do. Okay, I'm not interested in what you want government to do. Literally, I could government to do. What I want to know is, what are you willing to pay for? That's all I want to know here in the next 4, 5, 6 years, whenever it is. Whatever government does, other than a teeny tiny little sliver of the things that they are currently, you and me, we are going to pay for. So I don't care what you want government to do, what you think government might do, what it's nice that government doesn't know what you want government to pay. For voter registration deadline Sunday for the municipal election, if you don't register to vote and vote, I don't want to hear you complain. Anyway, well, we never did cover here 4 or 5 years. They probably aren't registered to vote. If they're under 21 years of age, they almost certainly aren't registered to vote, and they need lots and lots of help knowing who to vote for. There's a good suggestion there.
Well, and if you're listen to some of these mayoral candidates, I think it's hear them say, "Well, we've gotten so used to these government services, not essential services,
Yeah.
government, some of these services, and we can't. I mean, what you can't just get rid of some of them? I don't understand."
Halcrow was on the program here, and he literally said, I don't think they're going to cut government, and when push comes to shove, I don't think that we're going to want to see government cut at all. That he thinks we're gonna totally vote for 100% income tax, sales tax.
And is that because it's someone else's money? Because he's a small business owner, successful. You'd think that he would be the first one to say, when push comes to shove,
I want smaller government. Yeah.
When it's his money, it's different, I guess.
No, I don't know. I mean, he has bought into the idea that government money is the thing that does the most good in a society, which I don't think that's. All right, we'll take caller number 2 right now. It's our free Flower Friday giveaway courtesy of Dot at mylordsfloral.com. 14 minutes before the hour, 522-2535. That's their number. Our number, if you want to win these flowers, 569-1080. Or if you're in the Valley, 357-5868. Give us a call right now. Free Flower Friday giveaway, 569-1080. 11 minutes before the hour sponsor show. It is Dr. Dan Kiley. If you are looking for somebody to take care of your teeth, how about this? One person everyone needs in their life. It's a conservative dentist. I know you're asking me, well, I don't really understand why. If you become a patient of his, as he is my doctor, you will know just what I know, and that is how great it is to have a conservative dentist. And that's somebody who does just what's needed, and they do it very well. 562-9209, Dr. Kiley and his staff over at Lake Otis Review, 4050 Lake Otis Parkway, located here in Midtown. And he is the hour sponsor for this hour of the show. Iditarod starts 17 hours away. We're supposed to get a huge snow dump. Snow. Has it started, Bonnie?
We got about an inch last night.
That's it?
That's it. No major weather. I think it's supposed to start tonight and go to tomorrow at noon.
Well, it did ice, and people who do not have studs on their car suffered.
Uh-huh.
I understand there was a whole bunch of people in the ditch earlier today. So if you are a ditch diver and want to call and complain about that, you're welcome to. I think a lot of times people go into the ditches because they're the ruts in the road here are a little bit crazy. And I hope that the road crews get out there and get active, get busy, as they say. Uber's out of Anchorage. If you haven't heard, I think they've given up. We're just too backwards technologically. We just can't handle modernization in the great land up here. Hunter Killer, you know that movie? They were going to film it all in Whittier, and they decided that they were going to give up on it. It's a story out of KTVA here. The producer of a major motion picture that was supposed to film in Whittier this spring said the movie's project isn't dead. It's just postponed. And he said the U.S.-Russian spy thriller featuring submarines confirmed the movie will be shooting heavily outside the state. But he said the Alaska scenes will be shot in Whittier starting in late last year. Producers had said the big budget film would primarily be shot in a little south central town. Now, there is one big reason, and you pointed this out, Bonnie, that one of the things they were looking for is a big fat subsidy from the state of Alaska.
Right. No, they're not sure they're going to get that.
It's nice to have an extra $10 million, throw at your. When asked if the Alaska film tax credits played a part in the decision, Lumpkin said no. He said, to his knowledge, the production line to get tax credits, the necessary expenditures in Alaska. So we're still on the hook. You'll be happy to know the $3.5 billion budget deficit that we've got cooking here is just not quite enough to terminate things like that. I am very hopeful for a group that's here in the city of Anchorage. A group of volunteers seeks to curb Anchorage's violent crime. And I like I see Don Mega. I used to work with Don Mega over at the Ohana stations. And a lot of really good people around Anchorage, and they really do want the best thing. How do you get to city? That is a deep, dark question about it, which is kind of something we've done here for the last little while. The governors choose respect. I think that it has helped reporting because people finally thought, if I speak up, I've been sexually abused since I was 6. I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. I want somebody to pay for it. And they never thought they'd get help. In fact, Dan Fagan always talks about a friend of his who she mentioned it to, I think, her grandmother, that she'd been sexually abused by an uncle or dad, and the grandmother slapped her flat across the face and said, "Don't you ever say that again." Didn't care. Did not matter. So I don't think the Choose Respect talking about it campaign is going to work. The We Are Anchorage group has formed, and they're going to take on I don't know, maybe a different way. 8 volunteers who made up the recently formed Community Action Group We Are Anchorage gathered Monday morning in the parking lot of Mountain View Grocery Store, encouraging others to help foster safety in the city. In exchange of phone calls among the group's core members followed the spat of gun violence in Anchorage through the month of January. Some of it is deadly. Most of it's related to drugs, by the way, which I take it that if we legalize heroin, cocaine, that the gun violence would go away. Is that the story we're hearing on the other side, Bonnie? Have I got that straight?
I think that's the gist of it.
Okay, good. Yeah. So if we just start,
if we would just make it more available, it would stop.
Yep. That's what I'm thinking. We need to lower the price of meth down so that it's, a couple bucks a hit. And then if you don't have any money to pay for it, of course, we don't want you to go robbing anybody, which you'll probably do anyway. We'll give you the $2 because after all, if it's just $2, what's $2 amongst friends? Yeah, so you're killing yourself and you're melting your face off. Way things go. The group formed to address the increase in violence in our community. We thought the candidate forum was a good starting point. I personally don't know who I'm voting for, so it'll be great to engage some of those candidates. What exactly is somebody who's running for mayor going to say? This was a big deal, by the way. Andrew Halcrow was on the program yesterday, and he talked a lot about the chronic inebriate problem. They generally, by the way, don't assault anybody other than the people who are in their little chronic inebriate community, which I think they sexually assault and physically assault and verbally assault pretty much constantly. If, as I watch their group sort of meander around, yelling and screaming at each other, completely drunk out of their minds, and the men violently shaking fists at the women. I've seen them manhandled. And you can imagine if that goes on the side of the street. God only knows what happens when they're not there. But their violence doesn't extend to other places. I don't know. How do you get a city to be less violent? My theory is you give them more jobs. You make them tired. You give them something to do. You have stronger family structures. But we'll see. I don't know what these guys are going to be able to come up with. You hope they come up with something because, after all, living in one of the most violent cities in the country, it doesn't. Not a great recommendation. Not really a great recommendation. I have been unable to make heads or tails of what's going on with this pipeline. We've got $50 billion in the bank. Should we risk it all? Is that the plan? Is the plan to risk it all? How about this? Is the plan to give the vast majority of the money that this pipeline might generate to the people who are buying the gas instead of the people who are producing the gas? That might be the governor's plan. I want to get the thoughts of a couple people who are in the middle of this discussion, and that is Senator Anna McKinnon and Kathy Giesel. And they will give us their perspective on it, tell us what happened during this week. I think we've reached the halfway point for our legislature. So halfway through the very short 90-day session. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show on KOAN and KVNT. And who was the winner? Oh, Richard was the winner of Free Flower Friday. Robert was the winner of Free Flower Friday. So congratulations to Robert. It's my pleasure to be with you. Stay tuned, folks. The Glen Biegel Show continues. Happy Friday, everybody! It is Fair Game Friday. We already got done with the flowers. The Milo floral flowers are gone 5 minutes after the hour here, and I want to tell you about the hour sponsor for this hour of the program. It is A&A The Shop. If you've got a Subaru, I got just a place to take it. Corner of Tudor and Old Seward, 562-3919, or out in Eagle River, 696-2096. And they have the best warranty in the business in Anchorage, 6 out of the last 12 years. Great place. If you have a Subaru to keep you on the road, this is just the group to do that. I want to welcome to the Glen Biegel Show Senators Kathy Giesel and Senators Anna McKinnon. Thanks for being on with me.
Oh, you're welcome, Glenn. Hi.
Hi there. I bet that it has been what they call living in interesting times down in Juneau.
Very much so.
Well, what has been the most surprising thing so far? Give me something good and give me something bad. Is that fair?
Let's see.
Well, the Senate Finance Committee has the marijuana bill, so I'm not sure which category you want to place that in. You can choose.
Well, what I was thinking of was I hear a lot of people saying, look, we want you to cut government first. We don't want you to figure out new revenue streams. We want to see how small of a government we can live with. I consider that to be good. On the bad side, I was extremely disappointed. I was shocked, in fact, to see that the governor did not come through on his promise to cut 5 to 8% of the government. He cut 6% of, I think, the administrative costs or something like that, which is not what anybody heard him say when he was on the trail.
When it certainly is a difficult thing to cut. It appears that the governor's made all of the cuts in what I'm responsible for, and that's the capital budget side of the House. And so the House majority certainly is taking a hard look right now. They had hundreds of people come out yesterday. I'm sure most of them were testifying in favor of additional spending versus trying to control the budget. I know that we had a rally here today for education, early education, where parents and those involved want those cuts restored. It's a tough year all around in that regard, but the Senate is doing the same thing. We're trying to roll up our sleeves, check out what the House has done that need to be made. But unfortunately, it's probably not deep enough yet. If you're looking at a $3.54 billion deficit and you want to handle it in, let's say, 5 years, even though our savings won't last that long, you're still looking at somewhere between $7 at only taking a 20% bite out of the problem. And, you know, quite frankly, we're going to run through almost $7 billion worth of reserves inside of 18 months if we don't do more than is currently on the table.
Well, those are very sobering words. I mean, they just are. And you know, the thing which surprises me and when people bring it up, and I'd like to hear from you as to whether or not it's a fair way to look at things. The size of government back in, I don't know, 2004 is kind of where we need to get back to. Is it fair to say that we can get back there, or has the federal government basically put so many people on welfare, and we've put so many people on welfare that we just we can never get back there unless a whole bunch of people on welfare are no longer here?
Well, you know, we just need to keep both hands on the wheel. I've used this analogy before. We want to, I travel back and forth on the Glen Highway, and I see people in the ditch on the first snow almost every year. I'm sure other people in Alaska, in Anchorage specifically, see that too. And what we know is on the first snow, if you put your hands on the steering wheel, you take your foot off of the accelerator, so stop the spinning, and you start tapping the brakes so that we don't overreact, we're going to be just fine. And it's my analogy for the budget. We absolutely need to get it under control. Can we get to 2004? I don't know, but the first step is at least looking at $700 million to $1 billion and see what we can do. But the unknown in what we're seeing right now for the next 2 weeks at least is a stay on the Ketchikan lawsuit. There isn't new money out there for a hit to our state government of $250 million. And quite frankly, some communities like to be able to have other amenities beside a basic education for their students to go through, and they're willing to pay for that. Falls to the state, I think there may be a discussion about what basic education looks like.
Well, this is my thought, and I'm talking to Senators Anna McKinnon, Kathy Giesel. They're down in Juneau here. My question is, what benefit does it do for the state to have to pick up all the costs, but yet have these local organizations essentially go scot-free and not have to pay for essentially, wanting to have their own destiny, but have the state pay for everything? I mean, that doesn't seem to be reasonable.
Glenn, I introduced a new a Senate bill, I believe it's number 64, and we're going to start talking about something along debt reimbursement that we do for schools, specifically in more urbanized areas where we offer state matches. We really have to get our debt under control. So some would suggest that we should go out and just borrow our way, lay it on future generations to pay for what we need today. I don't agree with that methodology. I think that we need to look closely at debt. Certainly some debt is a good thing to do when you can pay off a capital project. But to do that for operating or expenses that the state doesn't have control on, like everyone is out there trying to build buildings for their students, and those are good things. I guess just delivering the bill to the state of Alaska is not very good business practice. So I think the state needs to have a conversation around debt reimbursement and somehow the cost that is exceeding $200 million annually for us.
Well, a lot of these things are going to have to be brought under control. We have the most expensive university system per student in essentially the free world. I mean, there are a lot of things that are not making a lot of sense. The debt reimbursements, I'm sure, got to be addressed as well. Senators Anna McKinnon, Kathy Giesel will be with me. We're going to talk pipeline here. If you guys have a chance to stay with me, is that all right?
It's perfect, Glenn. Thanks.
All right, 12 minutes after the hour. This is the Glen Biegel Show on KOAN and KVNT. Happy Friday, everybody. 15 minutes after the hour, and I want to tell you about Country Financial. If you are looking for answers to some of life's harder questions, well, they're the right people to help ask them. I went through a 2-hour process with them to try and determine what my responsibilities were to my family. What if things go wrong? What if you become disabled? What if you have a car accident? What if your house burns down? I mean, just the kinds of things that we keep insurance for. Could you rebuild? What would happen to your family? What are your responsibilities? And also the whens in life. When you retire, what do you want it to look like? You know, do you want to travel, and how do you plan for that kind of thing? Country Financial is there. They got 13 locations all across the state of Alaska and a great team of professionals to help you protect your cars, homes, farms, and lives. Country Financial has been in business more than 85 years, and they can be found at countryfinancial.com or 866-COUNTRY. Country is spelled
COUNTRY.
On the phones with me here, I've got Senators Kathy Giessel and Anna McKinnon, and they are in the midst of what I would suggest is probably a unique experience for most legislators. They essentially are having to redesign government. And we have been in difficult straits before, but I would say that this one is pretty much a full redesign. It's not a piecemeal thing. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, I think that there are different people that are trying to do that. We're looking at Medicaid reform. That's a systemic issue and problem that we're trying to deal with. We're looking at our debt and repackaging how we look in that particular strain of spending. There are 4 key spots that one would say we're out of control on. We spend K through 12 education, and by out of control, I mean we just don't have the money to continue to do what we've been doing. We have the Medicaid issue inside of Health and Human Services. In fact, 26.18 cents of every dollar we receive is spent on K through 12 education, and 26.18 cents is spent on Health and Human Services. And so inside that cost driver under Health and Human Services is Medicaid. And unfortunately, for the budget, the governor's supplemental has $92 million of additional spend to support the current Medicaid program. It's hid a little bit inside of this budget because there's quite a few reappropriations that are masking the $92 million payment, but it's still there. And so we absolutely have to look at reform and how we're providing those services to Alaskans. We care, but it's an expensive program. On top of that, there's debt service, and that comes in the debt that we talked about before we took the break, as far as capital construction debt for our schools, but it also that we are paying on our PERS and TERS pension liability. And so that's another dollars annually that we're paying. So we are looking at those structures, and we made a first bold step last year to correct that, and we're working on that. So in those kinds of senses, we are absolutely looking at redefining how we do business, and hopefully having the support of the people of Alaska while we do that.
Well, I think we elected you guys to do that, and even though we don't speak up very often, I think Senator Giessel has run a couple of polls in her area, and they're very clear. They do not want government to continue to be the size that it is. Is that a fair way to put it there, Kathy?
It is, Glenn. I did one poll, and the number one thing that people said is cut the size of government before you institute any taxes at all. And I just want to highlight yourself, but every time you've heard about the budget that Senator Anna McKinnon, I am so confident and pleased that she is in the seat she is as the co-chair of finance covering the capital budget. She is knowledgeable. I mean, you've heard how knowledgeable she is, and trust her to manage our finances well.
It's not an easy job. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
All right. Let me take a focus here from David. David, welcome to the Glen Biegel Show. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn. Thanks for having the 2 lady senators we have down in Juneau on the show. I just wanted to ask a question. You were talking about the school debt reimbursement. Now, that's when Brad Keithley and I were on the task force, we asked the question multiple times, are we really on the hook for that, or that authorized every year? We couldn't get a straight answer. Do they know the answer? do they have to spend the $200 million every year for the debt reimbursement, or do they have to authorize it every year?
Okay, appreciate that.
So this is Senator McKinnon. We have to authorize it every year, but there is a little bit of a catch there. The reason that we would want to fulfill our obligation to all cities that have previously done this is because our credit raters are watching how we're responding to this particular fiscal crisis. But it is subject to annual appropriation for that debt payment.
One legislature and one promise can't bind another legislature. They could find themselves in a different position as we find ourselves now. And the promise for the people who keep writing these bonds that the state's going to pay 70% of them, that just may not be true. Fair?
Yes, that's fair.
All right. I appreciate that. Thanks, David. I appreciate that call. That's David Neese. He's running for school board, by the way, here in the city of Anchorage. So Alaska's received a AAA bond rating from the agencies. Explain why that is in the face of what looks to be a lot of difficulty with ongoing budgets. Is it because we've got $50 billion in the bank and maybe we would be able to live off some of the earnings from that?
It's the $50 billion in the bank and the permanent fund, but more than that, there are quite a few sub-accounts that have $5 billion and another $5 billion, along with our statutory budget reserve and our constitutional budget reserve. We will burn through, if oil prices stay where they're at, below $66 a barrel. We'll burn through about $7 billion in the next 18 months. And, on production plus price. So, those are large.
Those are variables.
Right, those are variables.
Yeah, we don't know where those are going to go. Let's get to the pipeline. I am having a real difficult time understanding. My understanding of huge projects is very basic. Somebody's going to risk something. It may or may not pay off. And if it does pay off, it'll pay off long time in the future. And so this will be the largest project in North American history. We've never seen anything bigger than this, about $65 billion. And that's in current prices if we're not sued or we don't have a problem with steel and all kinds of things. So tell me about risk and reward, and then tell me what it is that you understand that they could do. What is he risking, and who is going to be rewarded if his project goes through versus the one that you negotiated with ConocoPhillips?
Well, Glenn, this is Senator Giesel. So, first of all, there are risks. This is, as you point out, the largest project in North American history. That was something that the legislature time on. Remember, there are two bills that passed that created the two projects. So the one large project was passed last year in legislation. But before that, we had a previous bill created a smaller in-state gas pipeline that the state would fully own ourselves. It's just a pipeline, however. And the reason for those two projects is that smaller pipeline is a backup plan. Larger $65 billion project does not go forward. We have a smaller backup pipeline only that we could possibly move forward. So it's plan B. We did consider all these risks and the long-term reward. It took 2 legislative sessions, countless hearings on the large pipeline bill. In the House Resources Committee alone, they had 105 amendments. So they went through each one, discussing the pros and cons of the amendment, and then the amendment would be voted down because the bill that we crafted actually was well thought out. So that large pipeline takes into account the risks. It is a slow process so that we all, as partners, have the opportunity to weigh out the cost, the risks, the benefits, getting careful cost estimates. As you know, project overruns can kill a project or kill investors. And we don't
just the Trans-Alaska Pipeline was estimated at $1 billion. It ended up to be $7 billion. That was only that because we didn't have the environmental regulations. I mean, we could be sued by Greenpeace or, Earth Justice or whoever for any number of a million different things. I mean, they could stop this project in its tracks.
Well, that's true, Glenn. However, let's be careful with the TAPS. TAPS was delayed significantly. Remember about the native land claim? That was a big piece that had to be settled. So there were multiple factors that caused TAPS to increase in cost.
So we're not looking at a 700% increase in cost estimate here. So we wouldn't be looking at 400 billion. But
so Glenn, hold on.
It could be higher than 65 though.
The process is what's called a stage-gated process. And so we look, first of all, at the broad cost. We apply for the environmental assessment to be done, the export license, all of those things. And then we get to a point by second quarter of 16 where we decide whether to proceed based on these broad estimates, okay? We get FERC approval. That's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission approval.
Well, Kathy Giesel is talking with us here about the pipeline, which is really hard for the average person to understand. It sounds like Exxon has said, look, if you're going to compete with us for the project and only one project is going to go forward, doesn't that mean we should step out of this and then you guys will just handle it?
They have indicated that there is some reservation because it appears that we are forwarding that smaller pipeline more aggressively, which would be a competing pipeline.
And they're only going to do one, right?
That's not a fundamental problem. Competition is a good thing. But the way this is structured through a single board, the Alaska Gas Line Development Corporation, AGDC, we have been working collaboratively collecting data, the data that's needed for the FERC approval, for the environmental impact studies, all of that stuff, the fish studies, the cultural studies. We've been sharing this information back and forth.
As business partners.
Exactly.
But if we're competitors and we get to take all of that value, why would they invest in it? Especially because the state's already shown, look, we favor public ownership of things, just as in the Beluga plant. I mean, these are very strange times. Can you guys stay with me? I have some more questions because I just don't understand where the money's going to come from.
I'd be happy to. Senator McKinnon and I are still here.
Oh, very good. All right. I appreciate that. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show. It is Friday. We made it all the way through the week. 357-5868, 569-1080. Stay tuned. Senators, do I have you? Hold on. I might have to put you on air. Okay. Senators?
Yes.
Hi. All right. So I'm really having difficulty trying to figure out what is going on because it seems like the state is not owned, first of all, that it's killing the old project, and then is not owning up to the fact that somebody's got to be risking something here. This huge, enormous, gargantuan, massive project, 20 years out, which might start giving us to be sued, that those are all huge risks, and they're not talking about any of that.
Well, Glenn, I want to kind of temper your message just a little bit here, okay?
Okay.
So, yes, the governor did indicate that he has a preference for that smaller line, and he has a preference for owning 51% of the value and all of these kinds of things. But at the same time, there are milestones that we have to meet to keep the project going. And frankly, the governor is helping us meet those. He is changing out the AGDC board. He's appointed some new folks. That's great. We needed to have those appointments made. They've been referred to my resources committee. We will be interviewing those folks. We'll be doing our usual process of interviewing, and evaluating their qualifications. Just yesterday, actually today, I think it was read across, the governor provided us with a pipeline right-of-way bill. There are segments of Alaska property that we need to get right-of-way through for this pipeline. The governor's met that, and he submitted a bill. Again, we'll be looking at that. There's a few more milestones, but I think the governor is attempting to stay on task and on time with those so that actually this large pipeline is still continuing to progress. The pipeline, the partners that are working with us have not pulled out of it. They are still proceeding with the work.
You said a number of things here that I thought that he is stepping away from it being a 500 million MCBF or whatever, million cubic feet per day.
You are correct. He is interested in that pipeline, which is what makes that smaller pipeline now a bigger pipeline that's competing with the original large pipeline. So that is a topic of discussion. It doesn't mean that this is written in cement. We're having conversations with the governor and talking this through about that we undertake there, the costs of enlarging that, what's called the smaller pipeline, because it does.
Well, and that wouldn't be legal under AGIA. Is AGIA done and over with?
AGIA actually is done. It was actually finished last year, end of June. We knew last year during legislative session, this was part of the heads of agreement that we entered into with our companies that, and TransCanada, that AGIA would be discontinued the end of June, and that the smaller pipeline could be enlarged. We knew that in the legislature.
It could be enlarged to 4.5 billion cubic feet?
4.5, more like 1.6 billion.
But that could be changed with any change in the law.
We don't need to change the law.
No, but it could be. I mean, he could enlarge that to 4.5 billion cubic feet if that's what he wants to do, because he wants an export line, not an in-state line.
Glenn, remember it's a 36.
Okay, we've got 15 seconds.
It's a 36 inch diameter line.
But
there's
that
a
could be
limit
changed
how much
with
compression.
Could that be changed with the law change? Oh, we're going to have to go on here. All right, hold on a second. Happy Friday, everybody. 27 minutes before the hour. I'd like to get your questions, if you have them, for Senators Anna McKinnon and Kathy Giessel. Let me tell you about Payless Car Sales. Was just over there today. I did get the gas cards there, but they were very late. I want people to know that. I ended up having to call. Let people know. Okay, I just got the gas cards over there. Anyway, if you're looking for a new car or a car that's just in great shape, listed under NADA, and they're willing to negotiate, but they always give our military a fantastic deal as well. 677 Auto, Payless Car Sales, Ali and his sales team over there, Oscar, AC, just a great crew. And they are going to get you in a car for a price you can afford that will keep you on the road for a decade. I mean, it's just great deals. 77 Auto, 919 East 5th Avenue, PaylessSales.com. Let me go back to the phone here and talk to Senators Kathy Giessel and Anna McKinnon. And I'm trying to work through the governor has called a bill that came out of the Speaker's office un-American. What does he mean by that? What does the governor mean by an un-American bill? Or un-Alaskan? Maybe that was it. This
is Senator Giessel, and I can't respond to that. I don't know. You'll have to ask the governor that yourself. But the bill that came out of the House basically just emphasized support for the process that has been laid out for the gas pipeline, and just kind of puts some clarification language in there. It really is fundamentally the legislation and the process we've already put in place.
Yeah, so you guys are trying to stay with the legislative and legislation and the process you put in place. He looks like he wants action, which I thought is why he replaced 3 sort of private wanted 25% of the line people with people who are interested in having the state of Alaska, and maybe the people who, rather than people who would produce the gas, own either all of the line or the vast majority of it. I mean, to be what's going on.
Well, I don't know if that's correct or not, Glenn. Frankly, we have not yet interviewed the applicants, or excuse me, the appointees, those 3 appointees. I couldn't really speak to what their intent is or their interest is. We will be doing that in the next few weeks.
Okay, well, they've always been very clear that they thought that the oil company and Alaska Pipeline ownership by the conglomerate of the oil companies was an enormous mistake. And so they like public ownership of the means of production, i.e. the processing plant, the pipeline, the liquefaction plant, maybe even the ships, to get it over to people who are going to buy it. But what I understood was the big difference between the two sides, that the conservative side here says we need to work with the producers. We're going to get 25% of this line. We'll get 25% of the gross value of the gas as it flows through with basically 0 costs. So we get 25% almost gross tax. I mean, it's kind of a good deal. But we got to come up with $15-18 billion in order to help build the line, versus I'm not really sure what the governor's plan is. I guess what you're saying is he hasn't really revealed to you that he necessarily wants to move away from what's kind of already been decided.
Glenn, I think it's important when we're talking about the partnership that people understand that all 4 of the partners will each have 25%. This is an equal partnership thing going on here. So we have 3 companies, Exxon, BP, and Conoco, each owning 25%. And then there's the state of Alaska in partnership with TransCanada owning 25%. So we're equal partners. We have a seat at the table, and we are negotiating for the best project for the people of Alaska. And these will be contentious, I'm confident, contentious negotiations. The governor has a very competent woman who is the lead on this, Deputy Commissioner Marty Rutherford. She understands this process. She has talked with the companies. She is defending Alaska's position, and she's doing a great job. So,
well, I'm still really hazy because, again, I see that the governor wants to own this project, or he wants the people who are going to buy the gas. This is what he told me on the air. He said, and he's told me this several times, he said, the people who want the gas will finance this line. They will sign a 30 or 40-year agreement to buy gas from Alaska. That upon that contract, we go to Wall Street. They give us $65 billion. We build the pipeline. I mean, that essentially is a very rough draft of what he has told me personally on the air, at least twice.
Yes, Glenn, I have heard him articulate that kind of a scenario also. But remember, the governorship is not a monarchy. It is a branch of government. And the other branch that has an involvement here is the legislative branch. And as I've said before, we have laid out a carefully crafted scenario where Alaska can, number one, afford this, our piece of this. And it is a partnership that brings us to the table. It will facilitate this line actually being built, something we've all wanted for a very long time. So yes, I believe there is a difference of opinion right now. Do I think it's insurmountable and not negotiable? No, I don't. I think we can negotiate, and I think we can talk rationally about this.
As well, I haven't noticed, as I talked with the people who he has appointed offline, I haven't noticed that they're really that interested in partnering with the producers. which is unclear to me. And again, I'm asking questions because I don't really understand. I've never heard anybody talk about risk when they talk about public ownership of this line. What are we risking? Who's risking? Who makes the money, right? Where does the money go? Is it Wall Street, who are buying the gas and signing these massive contracts? I didn't even think anybody signs a contract longer than 15 years. I went out and looked, and I hadn't seen that. Has the governor brought to you, Anna McKinnon, Senator Giesel, has he brought to you any kind of proof that he can sign a 30-year negotiated agreement with a purchaser?
Not yet, Glenn.
Well, that's a pretty big piece of the puzzle here. And why would he hold that if he had that?
Well, and remember that buyers are looking for surety. They're looking for certainty that a project is actually going to be built. Of course, they're interested, and there is significant interest in Alaska Gas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm interested in buying a Mercedes, right? But it doesn't mean I can afford it.
Yeah.
I want to know what the car costs, what the features are, and what other options I have. So when the state of Alaska and our partners have refined our numbers, we know what the pipeline is going to cost, we know what the tariff will be, we know what our selling price will be, that's when buyers will say, okay, I see you're serious here. You actually are going to go for this. We're interested really now. Okay. And we're interested in signing, yes, some contracts with you or negotiating them. And remember, the buyers are going to want the lowest possible cost. We're going to want the highest possible cost or a price.
Right.
So,
well, they're going to try, if they're the ones that are providing the guarantees, the purchasers, then they're going to get the lion's share of the benefit. I mean, it's just the marketplace. Why would they risk all that money in a huge, massive contract unless they were going to see a significant benefit from it?
Of course.
Just that was never talked about. Joe Balash was on the show, and he was the first one who talked about it. He said, they might sign a contract. Generally, they don't, but they might sign a contract. But if they do sign a 30-year contract, one thing that you can guarantee, they are going to take a vast amount of money out of this line in the benefit of, that they need to have a benefit to put that kind of risk into the system.
So, Glenn, that's the legislature's interest, that the state of Alaska, the people of Alaska will benefit 4 generations from this line, economically benefit in jobs, in revenue, in diversification of our economy, and that's our goal. That's what we're really focused on.
Well, I think people have given you that trust. Let me take a phone call for you from Brent. Brent, welcome to the Glen Biegel Show. You're on with Senators Kathy Giesel and Anna McKinnon.
Yeah, thank you, Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, every time I hear this gas line talk, they never seem to point out the elephant in the room, and that would be that the lower 48 will be our major competitor. And right now, the gas in the lower 48 is going for under $3. And from what I can read, they can land it in Asia for $6 or less. And the other component is Asia right now is buying gas for under $7. So any comments there?
Actually, this is Senator McKinnon. I was reviewing some mileage statistics, and we can actually compete transportation-wise. We're actually closer to get to the markets that we're looking at, Japan and China specifically, than the lower 48. So
I've heard that a lot, although...
is that a major cost driver? Is that the major cost driver? I think that's Brent's question.
No, actually Australia is as close as we are, basically, and they're losing their shirt on their pipelines they got going right now. And their break-even cost on a $52 billion line is $11 to $12. So you can see why they're losing their shirt.
Yeah, Australia had significant cost overruns, that's for sure. Alaska offers... we can compete transportation-wise. I'm not going to tell you that we can get there cheaper than somewhere else, but we can compete within a penny or two. But where our advantage comes in is our cold weather actually helps us here. We can lower liquefaction costs significantly. I believe the number is between 12 and 14% because of the cold temperatures compared to the Middle East or other processing spots that might be able to deliver that, which reduces the actual cost of capital construction for the project because we don't have to have as beefy of capital equipment for us. So
I
some of that-
have a hard time believing that. Does it not come out of the ground the same temperature as most places? I know well water does.
Right. It has to be cooled down.
Yeah, I realize that.
So it'll be cooled down by traveling through the pipe, and that will, squeeze the little gas molecules closer together. But even if it did save, say, 12% of the liquefaction costs, it's still the production facilities on the North Slope are going to cost the same. The pipeline, the 800-mile pipeline that we'll have to build, will be a massive additional cost. And even if you save 12% on liquefaction, that's still only maybe 2 or 3% of the total cost of transportation, I would imagine.
If I could, I'll just leave you with one thing, Glenn, and thank you for giving me the time. If we compare Australia's price at $52 billion and they can sell it for $11 to $12, that would be about $14 our price.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Hey, I appreciate it, Brent. Hey, Senators Kathy Giesler, Anna McKinnon, I know you guys are looking after the state of Alaska, and it's a big, big, big responsibility. So I wish you well with it. Thanks so much for being on with me.
Thanks for having us, Glenn.
All right. Have a great day. That was Senators Kathy Giesler, Anna McKinnon. Coming up, Mayor Dan Sullivan will be with us. Give us an Iditarod update. Stay tuned. Mayor Sullivan?
I know.
I say the worst one was actually it was probably the funniest part of all the kids was when Sean was at Blair. Oh,
Hey, Mayor Sullivan?
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, doing great.
I thought that the piece in KTUU, the question and answer, was pretty. I don't know. I thought it was pretty complete, and even though there was sort of a negative tinge to a lot of the questions, I thought they were fair.
On what?
On the privatization of the garbage facilities. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought it was a good. Austin did a good job, I thought.
Yeah, and you as always, you always come prepared, and you answered all of his questions, and I just back and forth. It just goes to show how much I'm going to miss you when you're not our mayor anymore.
Well, I appreciate that, and I haven't been keeping up. I've been kind of busy and crazy. I didn't know you were in the afternoons now.
Well, yeah, I move around here and there. I moved from 6 to 9, then 6 to 7, and now I'm on 4 to 6. My old home.
Yeah, no, that's good. So is Dan still on in the morning?
He's not. Tom Anderson has taken over the morning slot here, and he's a lot of fun. You ought to tune into him, see if you can give him a listen.
I've been on his show once or twice.
Yeah,
I guess just once.
Okay.
What
All
happened to him?
He was doing a show for a long period of time. I don't think he did sales calls. I don't really think he was managing the business side of things because everything else seemed to be going along just fine.
You got to do sales calls?
That's right. We're our own bosses here. It's a little different than other places that I've worked, but
you don't got a sales staff that goes out there and plugs your show and
No, hold on, Mayor Sullivan. We'll be right with you. $11 minutes before the hour, little AC/DC to kick you into the weekend here on the Glen Biegel Show, KOAN, KVNT. If you're looking for somebody to help you with a roofing project, how about this? How about a free re-roofing estimate? How about they come out and take a look and give you the lowdown on what's going on with your roof? A little bit of sagging between the eaves up there. It's not a good idea to let that sit. The brown spots are going to start appearing, and once they're there, you know that thousands and thousands of dollars in damage has already been done. Too late. 345-5555. Who does that get you to? The best in the business. Better Business Bureau Business of the Year for 2010, Earhart Roofing. If you are looking for somebody to help you with commercial, industrial, and, of course, residential. They're just a phone call away. 345-5555. When you think roofing, think Earhart, EARHART. And I am going to miss this man. I will openly admit that. And this is Mayor Dan Sullivan. Welcome to the Glen Biegel Show.
Hey, howdy, Glenn. Long time no talk.
Yeah, it has been, and I know that I've been moving around, but it's really good to have your voice on with me again. Yeah,
no, I appreciate that. You've given me the opportunity over the last number of years to kind of give the backstory on issues of the day, which you don't always get in the mainstream media. So I really do appreciate your voice and the opportunity you've given me. So thank you for that.
I think I steered you wrong, though, a time or two. I think Anchorage Ordinance 37 might have been partly my fault. People, look, this is a no-brainer. If we throw this to the public, it's going to be a 70-30. We're wrong. I didn't know they'd outspend us 20-1.
It happens. You know, we may have lost that battle, but I think we won the war. We just signed our 8th contract out of our 9. This one's with the police. And again, we're getting virtually all the provisions that were in the so-called controversial AO 37, which was not controversial at all. It just was really, the unions don't like giving up any modicum of power, and so they fought it tooth and nail. But again, I think we kind of won the war, because these contracts for the next few years are going to be, they're fair to the employees, but more importantly, they're fair to the taxpayers that pay these contracts, which you couldn't say about the 2008 contract. So we're looking at that as a good success.
Mayor Sullivan, I've got a question for you here. Do you think that there's anybody who is brave enough in the media to actually print what just went into the police contract and give you a fair reading?
It's going to go before the Assembly for approval here pretty quick. The members have ratified it. There's still a couple financial analysis to really determine what this is going to cost overall, because there's some quirky things in these contracts, and so it takes a little while to actually figure it out. But when we take it to the Assembly, there will be public hearing, and the media will cover it, and so I think we'll actually get a pretty fair shake on this, because it is the biggest contract that we do have, and I think it'll get some attention, and the terms will be they'll be well known to the public.
Mayor Dan Sullivan is on with us. I got a couple of things I've got to go over with you. Uber and what's going on with Ferrande. Where are you going to be? And are we actually going to get a snow dump? Do you get like a snow update when it's really critical for like this?
Yeah, it's going to snow tonight, about 3 inches. It's going to give a nice dusting and make a beautiful winter wonderland. We have plenty of snow stored so that the ceremonial start of the Iditarod will happen seamlessly. So it's all good. And then tomorrow, of course, after the start, we've got both the running of the reindeer, and we've got the slow bike race right there on 4th Avenue. Slow bike at 3, running of the reindeer at 4. There's no lack of fun coming over the next couple of days.
Oh, well, that does sound like fun. Hey, I'll run the reindeer with you. I think I can outrun you.
I'm waiting for somebody to get trampled. When there's a trampling, I'm going to enter, because I want the danger. I want that excitement. Have
you ever seen anyone trampled before?
Well, not by a reindeer.
They used to have in Homer, and I don't know whether you and I have been up here for decades and decades. You a little bit longer than me, but me to rodeos that were held down in Homer, and I think they were held a couple of times every summer, but we would go down there. And I've actually watched somebody get trampled by it was a bull, it was
probably one of those Brahman bulls.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Nasty.
It's just awful. It was terrible. So I hope not. But these reindeer aren't nearly as massive. I mean, that bull probably weighed 1,800 pounds. It was crazy.
No, the reindeer actually do their best not to trample you. So if I do run it, my goal is to just dive right in front of one as they're running, so to see if they'll jump over me or.
You're going to tempt fate, man. You get that young spirit in you. Are you surprised? I don't know whether or not I haven't talked to you in such a long while. We have a new senator, and I couldn't be more pleased. I watch his press releases come out. And he's just down there doing battle, as he has his entire life being in the military. But he's down there doing an amazing job of battling the federal government.
Yeah, no, and I think he took that charge very seriously. That the federal overreach was certainly a key theme of his campaign, and he's hit the ground running. I think he's going to be a very effective senator for us. What we need to do, of course, is keep pressure on the House and the Senate to do the things we elected them to do regarding illegal immigration and some of those other issues where they tend to say things during a campaign and then not follow through when it comes to actually being in session. So they disappoint us when they do that, but at the same time, I know it's a difficult balance sometimes down there because not getting anything passed doesn't accomplish anything, but at the same time, compromising too much actually sets you backwards. So,
well, they keep threatening the Republicans with essentially shutting down the government and stopping sending out Social Security checks. I mean, they're basically their ace in the hole. They keep playing it over and over and over again. I don't know that the Republicans have an answer to that.
Well, they're going to have to figure it out. I was really confident that once that we took control of the Senate, that there would be this new posture, this new confidence that we're now in the driver's seat controlling Congress. And that's a heck of an institution with an awful lot of power, controls the purse strings of the nation, dictates policy, other than what can be vetoed. And, I think they're still just getting their feet under them. This is kind of a new phenomena, haven't been this way in a while.
The Democrats still are wielding an awful lot of power. Hey, I got to get to Uber before we have to sign off. Which is
Here's the deal on Uber. We're still working very cooperatively with Uber. We have a meetings with the Assembly on the 18th, both the Transportation and Public Safety Committees. We're going to go over where we're at with our Memorandum of Understanding. Then there's a full Assembly work session on the 20th. We'll all be participating, Uber, the city. There's a couple sticking points on the Memorandum of Understanding that we're putting together, but we'll get through those. And Uber, they're going to quit giving free service for a while. I don't blame them. That's a business decision.
Yeah.
But it's not because we're not working cooperatively. It's just how long can you do something for free?
Why is it taking so long?
It's government.
Okay. Who is negotiating all this? Is it you that's in the room all the time, or is it somebody else in the middle of the city? Is it attorneys? What is it?
It's attorneys. It's, our municipal attorney. They want to make sure, again, that if you're in the business of transporting people from A to B and charging a fee, that you're required to be on the same level playing field as others providing that same service. You can't make exceptions for one group over another. So this Memorandum of Understanding, as compared to just coming under Title 11 regulations, it's going to have some teeth in it. And it means insurance requirements, it means background checks, and Uber is balking at some of this. And this is why Uber and other jurisdictions, they're getting kicked out of town, not only around the country, but around the nation because...
Mayor Sullivan, we are going to have to leave it there.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we're down to seconds here on the program. Thank you so much for being on, and it's a great pleasure to have you on with me again. I hope you'll come on again.
Yeah, no, just let me know anytime, Glenn.
2 minutes to go before the top of the hour. God bless, folks. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend.